Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Davies. I'm the host of the first Tech Business Roundtable podcast. Really excited to be here. I love tech founders. I love the tech industry. I love learning from CEOs and high-level executives, people who have lived and breathed, growing a tech business. And they're the ones that are out there changing the world, creating our future. You learn a lot more about me as our episode count continues to grow, and maybe even want to get a chance to interview some of our listeners here. But I'm super excited today to be here with Naren, who is the founder of the Tech Business Roundtable community and podcast. Naren, welcome.
Hey, Ryan, I'm glad we're having this conversation, the inaugural podcast, if you may, kind of talking about what is Tech Business Roundtable, what is the Tech Business Roundtable podcast. So thank you for this, a conversation that I'm really looking forward to.
I'm very excited as well. You and I have been friends for a while. You're a close friend of mine, so this is just a great fit. And I absolutely, as I said, I love the tech world and the entrepreneurial spirit. I know you've been a tech entrepreneur yourself in healthcare and other areas for over 15 years now. You run several companies. You love creating companies. Creating the future. You always tell me, pull the future forward, pull the future towards you, right? That is exactly what kind of that tech industry does, has a vision of that and pulls it towards themselves, and so that other people can all kind of get a taste and a piece of that as well. But for those of us who don't know kind of your full background, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your personal journey.
Absolutely. Like most people, I guess, in tech industry, I started out studying computer science. I'm not saying a lot of people in tech are from computer science, but that's kind of my background. So I graduated in 97, worked for some companies even when I was in school. This is in Chicago, and then worked after school. And I thought I'm going to learn by working for others. So I worked for large companies like Xerox, and I worked for startups and medium-sized companies like Trilogy Software in Austin, Texas. This is one of those darlings back in 1999, like a story where I guess the signing bonus is a BMW. So it was one of those, dot-com boom times, right? So some of you may know this, depending on your age. So that's kind of how I got started. But then what happened is I realized the more I moved into middle management, like director roles or VP roles, I started butting heads. I was one of those people who was unemployable, but I didn't know this at that time. I just spoke my mind. I said what I was thinking, and a lot of times it got me in trouble. So I got fired, I guess, 4 times in a row, like 4 consecutive jobs. And we just had a baby of oldest now, and this was 20 years ago. And then I was telling my wife, I can't do this again. I'll get a job. That's not the issue. But then I'll get fired for the 5th time, and I'll probably kind of go into some kind of a depression. She's like, I understand. So I said, I need to do something on my own. So that's kind of how it all started. So going back to my daughter was born in 2022. So I guess the December of 2002. So December of 2002, approximately 21 years ago is when I started this journey as a tech entrepreneur.
I think that's exactly, we have a great history, even Xerox, a common thread between us there with that one. But I think that's a very common story for a lot of entrepreneurs, is people who maybe bounced around or just had a vision, wanted to do it themselves, take on the world. And I know, again, you've done an amazing job with this, and now you have your newest venture, which is the Tech Business Roundtable community. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and why you decided to create it?
Thank you, Brian. Yes, it's techbusinessroundtable.com. I'm sure sometimes you have these ideas you cannot get out of your mind. It just keeps coming back to you, coming back to you, coming back to you. And this is one of those things for me personally. So as you know, Ryan, we all work from home. So we have been a virtual company going back to 2004. So pretty much 19 years. So now it's the trend and everybody's doing it, but we kind of embraced this right from day one. This idea of a global team, time zones, doesn't matter, cultures doesn't matter, borders doesn't matter. Like you hire the best people, regardless of where they are. You still create the culture and the community, and you do something amazing. So I have been part of communities of tech entrepreneurs going back to, I guess, 2005, 2006, and many of them were in person. And you ended up meeting at a place. I mean, there are those communities where anybody can go, and kind of low barrier to entry in terms of cost, and then they don't screen anything, they just advertise. You can just show up. And then there are those a little bit more exclusive. You pay $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 depending on the community, and you meet once a month, once a quarter. They might have an annual event. So those are the kind of things that were there to foster these communities. I got a lot of value from the community that was more curated, and kind of where you had to pay a decent amount of money to be part of it, because everybody there wanted to be there. But still, I thought there was a lot of things that could be done differently. Where I didn't like the idea of you only learn from people who are living 30 miles around you. What about people who live 3,000 miles around you? They also have ideas. They also have needs. And also, I realized that businesses are different. Running an e-commerce business is very different from running a accounting firm that is tech enabled, from a digital marketing firm that is tech enabled. So there's all these businesses and all these nuances. So I felt, why not build this huge tent of a global community where we have people from every sector, from consumer tech to small business SaaS, every sector that you can imagine, but also where it feels like you are with a set of group-minded people. So let's say all the consumer tech people can work together. All the people who are perhaps doing $1 to $3 million in revenue can work together because they have similar challenges, similar needs. So this idea of a global tent, a virtual tent where we can come together, I think after COVID, people have changed how they think. I mean, in the old days, we felt we have to sit in front of somebody's desk to talk to them and have a meaningful conversation. But many of us realizing after COVID, that's not necessarily needed. You can do as much, if not more, virtually, because it also comes with its own advantages, right? You're not getting on a plane. You're not, wasting so much time before and after the meeting, but rather you can just do it during the day. Like you can talk to 7 people in seven different places, thousands of miles away. So all these things, I think, have changed the world we live in. So I wanted to build this amazing community from the ground up. It's like, Abraham Lincoln said, right? For the people, by the people, right? It's like for tech entrepreneurs, by tech entrepreneurs, a place where we can hang out, we can learn, we can share. The other thing I also realized is people in tech tend to be people who love to help others. They love to give back. So they don't like hold back and keep secrets and stuff. They share openly. Hey, this works for me in sales, and let me share that with anybody who's interested and who might benefit from it. I've seen that kind of a wane pretty much across the board over the last dozen plus years. So I know this is ripe to happen. And of course, the other option is you go and take a class at Harvard or one of those top business schools, but it's not changing fast enough. You're signing up a year ahead and going to that event. Things change so much today. And also, I think we are learning more and more from our peers than from quote unquote books or quote unquote curriculum. Why? The speed of change is just getting faster and faster. By the time they finish coming up with the book and the title and print it all up 2 years later, things have changed. So it's just a new world we live in. And I kind of wanted to experiment and have this to be an ongoing experiment. We are constantly figuring this out and, meeting the needs of tech entrepreneurs globally.
It's amazing. I mean, it's a great vision for this. And you're absolutely right. How in this community, people don't want to see others make the mistakes they made. They want to share their best practices. And it's exactly as you said, this is about tech. It's the fastest evolving thing that's there, right? Like, look where we were not even a decade ago or even a year ago, but even a month or two ago in terms of some industries, and what's changed so rapidly. To be able to have that at your fingertips and talk to your peers and other people who are, again, living and breathing the same things, it's going to make a world of difference. And it's funny, you mentioned things like, that you get an idea that gets stuck in your head and it doesn't go away. And all I can think about for that is like, I'm not that entrepreneurial, I guess, as you are, because for me, I'm thinking it's more like Frozen songs or Baby Shark, because you can tell they get stuck in my head and doesn't go away. So I think you're a lot more productive with what's stuck up there than I get to lately. But that's fantastic. And I mean, I want to talk a little bit more about the members and the benefits they're going to get. But one of these days, I'm sure we're going to have another conversation in a podcast episode about that. But I want to kind of dig in a little more about what you mentioned. You've laid out a vision, what you kind of expect to see, and how people are going to take advantage of like all of the benefits that the Roundtable has to offer. But when people are coming to the Tech Business Roundtable community, what kind of challenges are you hoping that and looking for these podcasts to address, regardless of where anybody is on their business journey?
That's a great question. I think one big lesson I got being a tech entrepreneur is what takes to go from 0 to 500,000 is different from going from 500,000 to 2 million, different from going from 2 million to 5 million, different from going from 5 million to 20 million. So, I mean, you have to almost reinvent yourself. You have to reinvent yourself. You have to reinvent your team. You have to reinvent how you look at the world, how you think about things. So what I'm really hoping for is this community and specifically the podcast where we're learning from people like you, people like me. So every one of our co-hosts is a fellow tech entrepreneur. Every one of, or most of our guests are tech entrepreneurs. So the idea is, why not learn from people? And again, it's not just about, hey, look at this person who had $1 billion exit. Hey, look at this person who tried 4 times and this is what he learned. So it's just really, really kind of this idea of learning from each other, getting real, practical, tangible advice that is something that's just not coming based off of theory, but really has been tested in the marketplace. So it's just having fun, and I know there are some communities that are kind of close knit. So some of the, some of the Y Combinator, for example, has a community of, founders and so forth. So they help their current companies with the help of, their former founders, but it's really closed. It's only for the people who are in that group. So why not make that for the world, right? And there are tech entrepreneurs who want to build that $1 billion companies, and there are those who want to build a $10 million company and they're happy. So there's no like right or wrong answer on like how to use tech or how to leverage tech to do something meaningful that you're passionate about. So that's kind of where I was coming from.
I love it, and I think again, there's so much value in not just the celebrating the winners, but celebrating the people that didn't succeed as well, right? And that's a great thing that's going to be brought to the table here, and things that I'm looking forward to talking to people about is exactly that, is that, what were the mistakes that we live in this society where we live on social media and we always post the great pictures on Instagram and tell the great stories on Facebook, but behind the scenes, you don't see like the 5 bins of laundry I've got over there or things like that, right? Like there's always things that are going on. So it's a lot like that in the business world, where sometimes people are a little scared to kind of show that where they've been and some of the roadblocks or obstacles. And I'm really looking forward to having, that as a big part of the community as well. So let's talk about like the actual podcast itself a little bit. I know there's a concept of edition of the, the Tech Business Roundtable podcast. But what do you mean by that? And what would a typical podcast kind of look like in terms of, length and everything that we can expect from that standpoint?
Right. We're going to break all the molds. So that's what I'm going to say. So the podcast is the free version that's for everyone, like it's for the whole world, right? As long as you think you're a tech entrepreneur or want to be one, or you are one, we hope you get value, right? From the person running $100 million company to somebody who really is passionate and really struggling to make that first 100,000, there will be an episode that you're going to get value. And the way we thought about it is 2 buckets. One is, that's where the editions come in. One type of editions are all about, going deep. So e-commerce company and what they are dealing with is so different from, a tech-enabled service company. So how do we really add value to that e-commerce, entrepreneur, right? Founder, CEO. The way we are going to do that is we're going to have an edition called Tech TBR E-commerce Edition. So that's all about nitty-gritty details around e-commerce. Now, some of that may apply to you, some of them may not. So depending on who you are and what your interests are, you might listen to that episode. Maybe the title grabs your attention. Maybe e-commerce grabs your attention, whatever it is. So we have 32 editions, as we call them. And the first bucket is like going deep into specific types of tech industries. The second bucket is what we call interest. Like, for example, every tech entrepreneur wants to learn about HR. People, hiring, firing, compensation, motivation, leadership team, all these topics, right? So we will have a set of podcasts where we go deep into HR. That's all about educating, giving you the tools. So instead of you taking an HR course or getting a degree at a famous university, now you get some real practical advice from some people who have been there, done that. Could be a CEO, could be, someone is a leader of an executive search firm that has worked with 300 companies, and he or she has something interesting to say because they have a lot of experience of the do's and the don'ts. So another example of an interest could be marketing, sales, so legal, taxes and compliance. There's all these topics that you as the CEO founder has to master to be successful as an entrepreneur. So either you're going to learn from people just like you in the exact same segment of the tech industry, or you're going to learn from people who have been there, done that, overcome some of these common challenges that all tech entrepreneurs face. All of this is free. It's going to be on the website, techbusinessroundtable.com. It's going to be available, of course, on iTunes, Google Play, pretty much anywhere you want. And we're also going to make it video podcast. So every single episode will have a video component to it, and we will share it on, of course, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter. So some might be clips, some might be the entire episode. We're just going to have fun with it, add value. That's really our focus.
I love it. That's great. So yeah, people are going to hear and see a lot of me coming up. So you get a little bit of both from that perspective. But you kind of ran through a few of them, but did you want to touch on any of the examples of like specific additions beyond, like you said, the buckets? But I know you're talking about like not even just in healthcare. We've got biotech, health tech, medical tech, like there's even like, we're talking about that really granular level, like you said, so that people can really extract a lot of value for their time to listen to this podcast.
Absolutely. So for example, one of the additions is enterprise software. Another one is small business SaaS. So software as a service, but for small businesses. Another one is e-commerce, biotech, femtech, construction tech, government tech. You should go on and on and on. So many of these in-depth conversations are going to be like a segment in the industry. And the other example of of interest, like I talked about, marketing and so forth. A couple of other examples is venture studios, incubators, late stage venture capital, angel investing, early stage venture capital, private equity. Influence, like, are you applying the principles of influence on your products, on your website, on your processes? So there's all kinds of things you're going to get into and have fun with.
I love it. And I think that's just a great, again, doesn't matter where you are on your business journey, whether you're out there, looking for investors, looking for support, looking for, you've got the vision and you're trying to push it forward, or you're through that stage and you're excelling, but you've got, you're looking for the next step. What's the next stage? Like you said, each stage you have to reinvent yourself. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs try to be a jack of all trades, but quite often they're a master of none, right? So this is that ability to, great. So how do I start to maybe not master the other areas, but at least kind of get a feel for it and know how to not make the missteps and not to, find all the information they're looking for. So with that as well, we talked about how people can access it and things like that, but how often are we looking, are you looking to record the podcast and make them available for the communities to listen to?
Yes. I mean, we're going to start off once a week. Then we're going to go once every 2 weeks. Eventually, I can see this happening every single day and perhaps even twice a day. So remember, we have 32 editions. So once we are like totally staffed, we will have co-hosts. So for example, for the FinTech edition, we might have 2 to 4 co-hosts. So that way we hear different voices, different perspectives, even from our hosts, because, depending on your background, you're going to ask different questions. You're going to look at it differently. So we're just going to have fun with it. So a typical podcast will have one host and once a week, and it's heavily produced. This is going to be like, we're going to learn from each other. You're going to have a bunch of people just like you who are doing the interviews, and also tons of people just like you who are going to be sharing their wisdom and experience, including their failure. So it's just going to be like this community that's like growing, changing, evolving on a day-to-day basis. And then that's going to be powered by Equa.Tech, which is the marketing company that you and I are also working with, Ryan, that's going to kind of do the marketing and get the word out and, spread the gospel. So a lot of people are getting access to all this content and hopefully benefiting from it.
So now you probably got some people who are leaning in or listened a little closer when you said, we're looking for co-hosts, we're looking for people to interview, all of that type of thing. So maybe touch on that a little bit. Like who are you looking to interview? What kind of experiences are you looking to bring forward and to share? And how do people become a part of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's different buckets I can think of. One bucket is been there, done that. Like a dear friend of mine, Alan Law, he's the founder of Wattpad, a co-founder, and this, recently, or a few years ago, sold the business for $800+ million. An amazing story. It became kind of the standard in, storytelling and writing stories, and went global, hundreds of millions of users, crazy success story, right? So learning from him and kind of being able to kind of walk his path with him, the do's, the don'ts, the mistakes, what happened, how did he think about things? And a lot of times we learn a lot. I mean, why do smart people study history? Because you can learn a lot from history. So like being able to walk in their shoes. Another example could be somebody who's hands down, amazing at building sales teams, because this particular entrepreneur, let's say, scaled the sales team from 0 to 40 people, and he grew his revenues, new MRR from, let's say, 10,000 MRR every month to, let's say, 500,000 MRR. How did he do that? How did she do that? What were the secrets? What were the things? What were the steps that made them made that happen? Could be an episode where we talk to people who are professionals, like executive search, right? So somebody who has perhaps hired or helped hire 300 senior C-level executives. What are some of the mistakes that founders or CEOs are making when they're building their executive team? What works, what doesn't? So it's going to be all kinds of amazing conversations with people who have been there, done that. Of course, you can find these people and build relationships and get on their good side and learn from them, or you can hear and learn from all these people. And I want this to become kind of like a global encyclopedia. So it doesn't mean that you're going to listen to every episode, every word. You pick and choose what you want, what you're interested in the moment. So not only will this be like you're getting new ideas every single week, every single day, but also like you can go back, and that's where the members come in. So members, by the way, the first 1,000 members don't pay any fees, and we're going to keep the fees really low, even beyond that. So they don't pay any fees for the first year. So you get to experience it. You really get to kind of see it. So we're going to have archives. You're going to have, resources, PDFs, all kinds of things to help you. So think of education for entrepreneurs reimagined. So that's part of what we are thinking of when we think of members. Of course, we'll talk about that later as to all the things we're thinking about for members. But for now, podcast is one way we're going to create actually valuable knowledge from people who have been there, done that.
Perfect. And so again, as the founder here, lots of great plans. There's a great vision behind this, fostering the community and raising that to the next level. As we've talked about, each milestone that you're looking to hit. How do you envision fostering these communities, bringing them together and helping them to connect and share?
Yeah. So in terms of, we have, as my background is marketing, at least digital marketing, and I have a lot of experience in the space. And we already run a lot of communities. So we know kind of how to build communities, and of course it has been in healthcare, but we know a lot about communities and what people are looking for and how to get people helping people. And so hopefully a lot of that experience will help us a lot. And I think, like all entrepreneurs, we're going to experiment. We're going to try things. If it works, we're going to do more of it. If it doesn't, we're going to analyze and say why it didn't and perhaps make it work, or we're going to move on and do something else. At the end of the day, I want this to be very mindful of what entrepreneurs want, what resonates with them, as opposed to like pushing things down their throat that they're not interested in. Really like be listening a lot, be kind of paying attention to what's going on and what people want.
Perfect. Yeah, I know. And, we have these conversations all the time from those areas, right? How to build these tight knit communities, and how to make sure that people are getting these very tangible step-by-step takeaways that they can actually apply and use, that it's not some cryptic, messaging or, stay tuned to learn more type of a thing. So I'm really excited to continue on and draw those out of people. But I'm going to give you one now that's not quite such a softball for you. We've talked a lot about the, what tech entrepreneurs want to hear, these experiences, these challenges, exactly what we just talked about, how we're going to share it in the community. So maybe you could give us an example of one of the experiences from your own journey here in the tech industry where, maybe something was a big challenge to overcome. Were you successful or not? What did that look like?
Yeah. So an example of, something that I had to deal with is, when you are running a smaller business, you don't have to be very process dependent, right? But as you start scaling, at some point, let's say it's 50 clients, whatever the number is, you can't just know everything. You can't handle everything. So a lot of entrepreneurs don't know how to make that transition. And many businesses go out of business, right? I mean, that's why at every stage, $1 million business, only like 10% make it to that level and so forth. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. They don't make that transition. So that's an example of something I struggled with and I had to master, and I'm still mastering it. Then as you grow even further, when you get into, 7 digits, 8 digits and so forth, then it's about leadership teams and breaking things down into, smaller businesses. So, I mean, there's all these, barriers or ceilings that's kind of holding us back. Maybe it's a mindset, maybe it's things we don't know. I mean, that's the thing, right? We don't know what we don't know. So it's really being able to kind of discover it. So now what I'm hoping for is, from this community, we will notice things that we didn't think of because somebody else is facing the same challenge that we are facing, and we don't know how to get through it because we don't know what the answer is. We are missing something, and they saw it. They figured out what the answer is. Now we can, piggyback on their success. And within the community, we're going to have fireside chats. We're going to have all kinds of things, webinars, masterminds, all kinds of things to really go to the next level. It's not just about one-way communication like with the podcast, but rather it's a community, people helping people, coming together, learning from each other, growing together.
And this great, great example. It's exactly, it again comes to mind things like how often have we heard, whether it's, a business practice owner or somebody who's an entrepreneur or a medical practice owner, or my grandma with her recipes where they go, well, it's all up here. That's good enough. I got it. Right. And it's like, well, that's what we're aiming to do, is to take it from here and share it out so that everybody can kind of learn those processes and not have to, again, not make those missteps or not have any guesswork, and all support. So I, again, really, really excited about fostering this community and helping it grow. Again, kind of another question for you, if we're talking about it, for tech entrepreneurs, again, the point of this is they're looking for advice, they're looking for guidance, they're looking for, like you said, the growth hacks, the ways to do things, regardless of where a listener is right now in their business journey. Do you have, a top 2-3 pieces of advice that you could share in terms of things to help them today?
Oh, that's great. I think there's 3 things I would like to share with our listeners today. Number one is stick to itness, right? Like, one thing I know about anyone who's still standing, still, hasn't given up or folded, is they don't give up. They really believe in something. They see the world differently, and then they believe in that new way of the world should exist. And then they just don't give up. They stick with it. They stick with it. They stick with it. If you're one of those people who's looking for success, in other words, oh, I'm going to make X dollars and that's why I'm doing this, and the minute you don't get it, you're going to quit. But if you're somebody who's really focused on creating the new feature and being part of, like making it happen, then you won't quit. So that's number one, stick to itness. And it's a muscle, you have to develop it. And I think the more you do it, better it gets. So, of course, a 14-year-old or 15-year-old or somebody starting out won't have that muscle. So you have to develop it, right? Any other muscle. The second thing I like to share with our listeners is this idea that Dale Carnegie said. He said, the world is full of people who are grabbing and self-seeking. In that world, the rare individual who focuses on helping others get what they want has no competition. So what he's saying is, if you are me, my goals, my numbers, you won't succeed. But if you're all about visualizing the future and where the future is really beneficial to whoever you're trying to serve, your customers, your team, etc., and then you are focused on making that happen, whatever it takes, no questions asked, just sticking with it, then in the long term, you're going to be doing fine. So it's really, really that relentless focus on the future and creating their future. So focus on others, focus on giving other people value. One rule of thumb I use is, if I'm going to get paid $1, I want to give $10 back. So if they are getting $10, then it's fair for me to ask for $1. In other words, give them so much more value than you get from that relationship. So those are 2 of the big things that come to mind. And finally, I think it's about people, right? So like continuing to work on your people skills, listening, influencing, inspiring. So it's never ending. So constantly studying, constantly learning, constantly, like, something doesn't work, don't take it personally. Like, rather look at it as, what can I learn from this? How do I now apply it? When something does work, don't get excited and just, go to the beach for 3 days. Say, hey, this is working. How do I celebrate it, but at the same time leverage it so I can do more of it, right? So these are some of the lessons that I'd leave with our listeners. And I know you put me on the spot, so I didn't really think it through, but these are the things that just came to the top of my mind.
No, I think that's perfect. As you know, I'm Sandler sales certified, right? And that's a big part of it, is the dummy curve, is talking about how you get this burst of success at the start and you go, well, this was easy. And then you hit that, oh, maybe I didn't know what I was doing. And then people don't stick to it. They don't come back through the curve to come back up and learn, right? They don't act vulnerable. They don't ask questions. They don't admit they don't understand something. They don't ask for help, right? And I think that's where this really comes forward, is don't be a dummy, come out of the curve, right? And really grow yourself, grow your business, grow everything, right? Like, whether it's you personally, whether it's your business, the people around you, as you mentioned, provide value, all of these things. But great, that's a great message, and I think that's perfect. Almost to close up on here, but I'd love to again kind of ask you a question about what message you'd like to convey to our listeners to tune in regularly, become active in the community, go through the process and join us here. Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So of course, visit techbusinessroundtable.com, specifically techbusinessroundtable.com/members. That's to learn about our membership. We have venture capitalists, angel investors, founders, CEOs, everything from a startup to $50 million company. So we're going to build different sub communities within it. So apply. The first 1,000 members, we are waiving your fees for the first year. So that's the first ask. The second ask is, when you go to Tech Business Roundtable, you can see all of our podcasts, all of the episodes, and you will have links to our Instagram, our LinkedIn, all the different ways we are connecting. So slowly but surely start joining us on all these different ways. So maybe we can share a clip on LinkedIn with you. Maybe you can join our LinkedIn group. Maybe, you might see a video on Twitter. So just stay active, stay engaged, and then join us, whether it's as a member or a guest or even a co-host. We are looking for close to 100 co-hosts because we will have 32 editions. So, you could really be part of the movement. I mean, we want to build this movement, like I said, by tech entrepreneurs, for tech entrepreneurs. Of course, we will be including CEOs. So you have to be a founder or a CEO or an angel, VC, somebody in the community helping these companies to be part of this. And we'll vet everyone. So please don't get offended if we don't let you in. We want everyone to follow our guidelines, like being honest, helping people, not trying to sell things, all of these guidelines. So if you are following those guidelines, we will not kick you out. I think one of the reasons a lot of communities don't work is the people running it don't enforce the rules. So it becomes like the lowest common denominator. So we hope to be different. So if you are not just, hey, remind me that I said this and point it out to me, like when we are not living up to our ideals. So, so let's have some fun. We have a vision, like we want this amazing for tech entrepreneurs by tech entrepreneurs, but at the same time, like anything new, any community, it has to be nurtured like a child. It has to be taken care of. So hopefully you join us. Hopefully we can nurture it, grow it, make it better tomorrow than it is today.
It's amazing. So yes, I want to thank you, Naren, for your time today. What an absolute blast. I'm so excited. This was the inaugural Tech Business Roundtable podcast to be a part of. I want to thank all of our listeners as well for listening, and encourage you again, as Naren said, join the community, reach out. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to have you as a guest, a co-host, help me out here, really start to share that wealth of knowledge that everyone has and grow this community so that everybody can benefit and succeed and really get that granular, targeted, information to help plan and take the next step in their entrepreneurial journey. Naren, thank you again. I really appreciate your time today. Always a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for listening, and can't wait to talk to you for the second edition of the Tech Business Roundtable podcast. Until then, take care, everybody.